Good morning, everyone, and a good tavach. Today is the 16th day of Adar Aleph, February 25th. Charlie, we are on page 104. You with us? Oh, good. Okay. And Adam, thanks for coming in. And Jonathan, good morning, everyone. Good morning. A quick preview of yesterday's Tanya. Yesterday was the Holy Shabbos Kodesh, so we don't record the shir on Shabbos. And in yesterday's lesson, we continued along the path of trying to break our spirit in order to break the Sitra Achra, but the Alter Rebbe shifted a little bit. He goes, okay, let's say you can't find any flaws of your past, or even, of your present. So what do? Tired? You were up late last night? Oh, welcome back, Levi. Levi was gone for Shabbos. He's back. So what do? Now the Alter Rebbe says, turn it around from being sad and miserable and looking at your actions with contempt and a broken spirit, and instead rage, get angry with the Sitra Achra. The Yetzer Hara comes to tell you to do something that you're not supposed to do. Say, stop it. No, I'm not going to listen, and push him away with two hands. So in that way, hopefully, we will be able to humble and crush the Klippa. The Alter Rebbe now provides various humility meditations to achieve this goal. Actually, that was yesterday. And now he continues along this theme of how to achieve true humility, breaking the grip of the nefesh habahamis-like soul on the heart. And he realizes that when a person realizes how one is truly lower, now instead of focusing on ourselves, we start to look around us and we realize that we're lower than every other person. And when we see other humans in their individual context and circumstances, we humble ourselves. So somebody else could do a much greater job than I, right, Levi? In today's lesson, be humble before every person, even the sinner. This is achieved by judging everyone favorably and realizing that one shouldn't judge another negatively until you walk in their shoes. There's a famous story. Steve, Charlie, you ready? There's a famous story of a guy. He's on a train with his kids. His kids are bouncing off the walls, screaming, yelling, throwing things. In the New York City subway? Oh, you saw that guy? His kids are bouncing off the walls. And another guy in the train says, finally couldn't handle it anymore. And he says to the guy, can't you control your kids? They're screaming and making such noise like a bunch of wild animals. And the father looks at this guy and he says, I don't know what to tell them. We're on our way back from their mother's funeral. So, did you guys hear that? He says, we're on our way back from my wife's, from their mother's funeral. So the guy right away goes, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I can't believe I judged you. Every situation you look at, unless you're looking at it from the other angle, you really don't know what's going on in a person's mind and why he's acting in a certain way. So today we begin chapter 30, chapter Perek Lamed in Tanya. And in the last chapter, the Alter Rebbe discussed various means of overcoming timtum alev, dullness of the heart, the state of insensitivity in which one's heart is dull and unresponsive to thinking of God's greatness. All of these methods, Shalom, we don't edit this thing. So that's going on. All the methods are aimed at crushing one's spirit, whereby one crushes the cause of the timtum alev, the arrogance of the Sitra Achra of the animal soul. Now, in today's chapter, the Alter Rebbe continues this discussion by outlining another method of dealing with the problem. In Pirkei Avos, we learn that a person should be lowly of spirit before every man. Don't come in and think you're better than the next person. First of all, because you're not. It's plain and simple. Second of all, you don't know what he's going through. Say, oh, I came early, he came late. You don't know what he went through and what he's going through in life. Maybe he was out late gambling at the casino. What do you know? No, I'm kidding. It's just a joke. Maybe he was. Maybe he was away for Shabbos and he went learning in yeshiva, and then he came home late because that's the earliest we can get him, right? Now, the heve be'emes lamitoi, The word implies be thus. Do not merely act, but mean it in all sincerity. Guys, the sound is picking up your conversation, so let's not have a conversation. A person should humble himself, mamish, not just, in front of, okay, this one, that one, Michael, Steve, Jonathan, Vladimir, but actually in the presence of every single person. Even in your mind, even if you think that person is the most worthless, kal shabakalim, weak. How is one expected to regard himself, as being lowlier than the lowliest sinner? So if the Adar is telling us to do that, how do we do that? How can we accomplish this? So he says, don't judge your fellow man until you've stood in his place. Meaning, place yourself in his place. Do you know what he went through? And by the way, you could say, yeah, maybe he got stuck in traffic. So did I. That's not what it's talking about. You don't know what happened last night. You don't know what happened yesterday. You don't know what happened last month. And you don't know how he grew up as a child. So you really don't know what's going through his mind, because it's nearly impossible to place yourself in his shoes. So you really are never able to perfectly judge somebody. For it is literally his place, meaning his physical environment that caused him to sin. So even if you say, yeah, but we both came to shul at the same time, and whatever, but you don't live with him. You're not in his shoes. You're not in his home. Again, it's literally his place, quote unquote, not necessarily even physical, but it's also the mental place that he's in that causes him to sin. So the Yetzer Hara comes and attacks him. He has a different set of defenses than you have, maybe. When a person, this guy, his livelihood requires him to go to the marketplace, or he has to go on the internet. It's not easy doing his job, because part of his job is graphic design, and he comes across all sorts of images that if we would come across them, it would be very difficult to stay focused on only pure thoughts and pure things, or whatever it might be. I'm just giving an example, but he works in the marketplace. There's all sorts of nonsense that goes on there, and he gauges people that sit at the street corners, and his eye sees all sorts of temptations, and what the eye sees, the heart desires. Yitzrei boyer ketanur boyeira meoife k'moshe kosuv b'hisheya hu boyer keish lahava b'geimer. Additionally, it may be his spiritual place. It's not even physically the marketplace that he goes to, but spiritually, the evil impulse takes him in terrible places. His evil nature burns like a baker's fiery oven, which is heated with greater frequency and intensity than a domestic oven in your home. What's the highest temperature our ovens reach? 500, 575, maybe if we're doing oven clean. But, generally that's about it. When you go to, when they bake the pizza, it's like 60 seconds, 90 seconds, boom, it's out. It's like 1600 degrees. I don't know if that's how hot it is. 1000 degrees. So Hosea says it burns like a fiery flame. His Yetzer Hara may be a little bit stronger, and he doesn't have the proper tools to deal with it. A person who's able to work from home and doesn't have to see all the craziness in the world, he has less temptation. Or even if he goes to the marketplace, but he doesn't have the type of taiva, he doesn't have the type of temptations that the other guy has. He has a much stronger willpower, and his Yetzer Hara can't break through the way it does with somebody else. Why is it that two people can sit at a kiddush and one guy says, I'll take a little bit of a mashkin, no problem. And another guy becomes an addict and cannot control himself. You can't blame that guy. He has a different makeup, a different bodily functions that don't allow him to hold himself back. And we all have our different struggles. That might be one example, right? Make sense? Let me just finish this. The Yetzer hara is not the same in everyone. One may have a more passionate and the other less so, as we explained. But if the misdeeds of the Kal Shebekalim are indeed attributable to his environment and to his passionate nature, why does he deserve his derogatory appellation? Why is he called a Kal Shebekalim? So to this, the Alter Rebbe replies, come back tomorrow and hear the answer. But until we get to that point, again, we don't judge people because everyone has their strengths and their weaknesses. Like you, stop. Everyone has their strengths and weaknesses, and we don't judge somebody else for what they're able to not accomplish, or maybe they do excel in other areas that you don't. So the takeaway is the toolbox for success in divine service. Don't compare your journey to others. You don't know someone else, what his situation is, what kind of obstacles he has to go through, and you also don't know his victories. Things that you fail at are easy for him. What we need to do, as we keep mentioning, stay in your lane, know your place, know your position. You fight your good fight. You need to focus on your own unique journey and ask yourself, is my today better than my yesterday? Have a good day, everyone, and a good week. Nati, please.